for CBS News. Take care.
This is the CBS Evening News. Dan Rather reporting. Good evening. Whether one sees it as a comic opera, a danger to U.S. national security, or both, the situation in Panama tonight is complicated and confusing. General Manuel Noriega still appears to have the upper hand. He is the near dictator who reportedly did business with Oliver North and had other powerful Washington connections, but became an embarrassment when exposed as a big man with narcotics cartels. President Arturo Del Valle appears to be in limbo after starting a takeover attempt last night. As the crisis deepened and became more dangerous, President Reagan played down any need for U.S. military force. Correspondent Richard Roth is in Panama.
Panama's military chief called out his civilian army overnight to change the government. The National Assembly, dominated by supporters of General Noriega, ousted President Arturo Del Valle and installed a new chief of state loyal to the army. Stripped of his office and his guards, left only with his friends, Del Valle today called his ouster illegal.
I consider myself the president of Panama. I believe that the constitutional president will have the backing of the people and will have the backing of all the democratic nations of the continent.
Now, support from abroad and public opinion are his only weapons, but it will be hard for Del Valle's voice to be heard here. Troops shut down his television station and closed the opposition newspaper. And this morning, when Panamanians briefly took to the streets, it was to chant for Noriega. In a bold stroke backed by the military force he controls but hasn't used, Manuel Noriega sidestepped the demand for his resignation and started a flurry of speculation about what happens next. The ousted president is calling for a general strike and U.S. trade sanctions to put pressure on Noriega by accelerating the decline of Panama's crippled economy. But beneath the benign appearance of business as usual, there was fresh talk today of another option: military intervention from outside, from the U.S. Noriega supporters say that's the only way he could be forced out now.
They'll have to kill him. I expect that they do that. They'll have to invade us, and I expect that they don't do that, because that would be an offense to all mankind.
But most opposition leaders worry the status quo can't hold for long. We want to overthrow General Noriega, says the president who's just been fired, but we want to keep the peace. Richard Roth, CBS News, Panama City.
President Reagan and his aides indicated today they are now determined to keep up the pressure on Noriega, but they are not ready to use force. Bill Plant begins our Washington coverage.
Reagan administration officials quickly expressed support for President Del Valle as the constitutional head of the government of Panama. But President Reagan just as quickly rejected the idea of U.S. military intervention to help him.
No, I don't think that's an answer.
Do you think our troops or the canal are in danger in Panama?
No, I do not. I don't think there's any appetite on the part of anyone there, including Mr. Noriega, to take on our troops.
Mr. Reagan denied that the U.S. had anything to do with Del Valle's move to oust Noriega, but he and members of his administration left no doubt they were aware it was being planned.
We had been aware of the actions that President Del Valle was contemplating doing. We had been informed, but the decision was President Del Valle's own to make.
Most U.S. aid to Panama has been cut off for months. On Capitol Hill today, voices on both the left and the right called for additional economic pressure to help force Noriega out.
The whole ball of wax. Just embargo Panama.
It seems to me that nothing will speak louder than the grinding to a halt of the economy of the country.
At the Organization of American States today, two different ambassadors sought support from member nations, one on behalf of Noriega, the other for Del Valle. Del Valle's man emerged claiming victory.
Most of the governments have already made it clear that they are backing President Del Valle because he is the constitutional president of Panama.
Panama's ambassador to the U.S. also continues to support Del Valle, even while acknowledging that the armed forces remain loyal to Noriega.
We do not have any military support. As I said, we have the weapons of being right and the weapons of reason.
Sources tell CBS News that at a National Security Council meeting today, the president and his advisors considered a number of possibilities: military intervention, sanctions, and a trade embargo, and rejected them all. The White House tonight issued another strong statement of support for Del Valle and made it clear that there will be no deal to drop the indictments against Noriega. But there is no plan of action here. The only course open to us, said one official, is to wait and see. Bill Plant, CBS News, the White House.
The 10,000 U.S. military men and women stationed in Panama are on Bravo alert, which simply means that they are under orders to keep a low profile. The widespread feeling is that anything the U.S. military might do right now would only make matters worse.
We are disappointed, of course, at this turn of events, but it would be premature for us to take any action.
Nothing would strengthen General Noriega's hand more than the suggestion somehow at this juncture that the United States is prepared to take military action.
Still, there is little doubt the U.S. would fight back if forces loyal to Noriega were to move against American installations like Howard Air Force Base or the canal itself.
We would obviously, as the United States, and I would, reserve the right to do whatever is necessary, including military force, to protect Americans' sacred interests in that part of the world.
And it's something that we've got to make clear to all, that we are prepared to see to it that that canal stays open, and if that means the commitment of our troops, then certainly we will do that.
2 of every 3 ships passing through the Panama Canal carry goods bound to or from the United States. American warships use it to transit between the Pacific and Atlantic Oceans. Because the canal is so important to American economic and military interests, a U.S. Army brigade is stationed in Panama to defend it. At the first sign of real trouble, the Pentagon probably would reinforce that brigade, but for the moment that does not seem necessary.
Of course, you can never say with certainty that there are not risks. I would say we don't know of any imminent danger at this moment to Americans in Panama.
No, I don't think there's a serious military threat in Panama right now. The Panamanian Defense Forces aren't going to attack the United States installations there, or the canal either. They're to defend the canal.
No one in Washington is looking for a military solution to the crisis in Panama. But no one in Washington seems to have any control over what Noriega will do next, and he is the one who will determine whether the U.S. is forced to take military action. David Martin, CBS News, the Pentagon.
This current tension between the U.S. and Panama goes back to 1978, when a divided U.S. Senate barely approved the Panama Canal Treaty to hand over control of the waterway to Panama in 1999. A lot has changed since the treaty was negotiated, namely the leadership of Panama. 60 Minutes correspondent Morley Safer is here with a look at the consequences. Morley?
There are a lot of conservatives who are saying tonight, I told you so, and indeed, when the United States Senate ratified the treaty handing over the canal to Panama, there were few in any party who thought the transition would be an easy one. The treaty did mark the end of years of bitter partisan wrangling over whether or not the United States should give away what many people felt was an American asset, conceived and built by America for America in a country that was virtually an American protectorate. Teddy Roosevelt's great legacy. By the time President Carter signed documents with Panamanian General Omar Torrijos, Panamanians felt their nation had come of age. Torrijos was a dictator, but a popular one. When he died in a suspicious plane crash and subsequently his intelligence chief, Manuel Noriega, took over, a benevolent despot had been exchanged for a man described as a common thug.
Noriega's policy was to make himself as useful to as many Yankees, as many gringos as he possibly could. And sometimes I wondered when the man took time out for lunch, because he might be working the FBI in the morning, the CIA in the afternoon, and the U.S. military in the evening, trying to be useful to them.
And the KGB at night.
And perhaps the KGB at night or during the weekend.
Once again, the United States was embracing the unsavory. Why this long and undistinguished record of supporting repressive and corrupt dictators?
We may have to deal with such men as Noriega in a pragmatic way, but we should never embrace them. It's very important that the United States let the Panamanian political process run its course.
But there is no Panamanian political process.
There is growing opposition to him. Yes, you're right if you say that there is no assembly which is going to oust Noriega. There's no constitutional process.
This is a big crime syndicate operating with billions of dollars of resources. They have taken my country hostage. That is what we want the world to understand. We have been captured by Noriega and his hoodlums.
American diplomats today said Noriega was likely to endure this crisis, but even if he somehow vanished...
Can it get worse than Noriega?
Yes, it could. It could get worse than Noriega. There are people in the National Guard worse than Noriega, and a few in the government even more corrupt than he is.
There's an awful irony in the fact that no matter how unpopular Noriega is in Panama, American demands that he step down have to some degree strengthened his power at home. He can now set himself up as a symbol of resistance to gringo tinkering in Central America, an always popular theme.
Well, as you talk to sources today, what do they think lies ahead? What's next?
Well, there's a call by the opposition for a general strike tonight and for rallies next week. And the ralliers, the opposition, will be up against the National Guard, those hoodlums as they were described by Ambassador Lewis.
Thanks, Morley. Still ahead on tonight's CBS Evening News, correspondent Terry Drinkwater on a sign of the times, California's tough new measure warning about cancer-causing chemicals. And Jerry Bowen on this weekend's showdown between East and West.
Morning, ladies.
Morning.
Like to see how your cereals stack up to total?
Lovely idea.
To get the vitamins in one bowl of total, it takes almost 3 bowls of Special K.
Pass the all brand, Gloria.
Takes 4 bowls of that.
That's why I like shredded wheat.
Then you'll have to eat 12 bowls.
You better loosen your girdle, Margaret.
Total has 100% of 9 vitamins and iron and is rich in calcium.
I've always preferred Total. Me too.
Total, a stack of nutrition in just 1 bowl.
Day after day, more people depend on Subaru wagons than any imported wagon in America. And with good reason. They're reliable and durable. In fact, if Subaru didn't make your life easier...
Honey, is dinner ready?
Who would? Subaru. We built our reputation by building a better car.
This is As the Bowl Flushes.
John, our daughter is seeing someone from the wrong side of the tracks.
You mean?
Yes. He doesn't use automatic vanish.
No. Didn't we teach her that no other brand gives you that tough vanish formula?
Yes.
That it helps clean and deodorize with every flush?
Yes.
That the clean goes on and on?
Well, John, she is your daughter, too.
Is she? Tune in next week when Porcelain says,
Our daughter's clean reputation is at stake.
with automatic vanish, the clean goes on and on.
Secretary of State Schultz's Mideast peace mission ran into heavy weather from both sides today. Israeli Prime Minister Shamir told Schultz he does not want to speed up a timetable for Palestinian self-rule in the occupied territories. The Palestinians didn't even want to talk about it. Schultz invited 15 of their leaders to a meeting in Jerusalem. None came. Once again today, Palestinians made their points with rocks and bottles, and the Israelis again replied with bullets. 4 more Arabs died in violence that swept the occupied territories. Bob Simon is there.
Whatever progress was or was not made today, the mere mention of peace talks in the Middle East means more people are going to die. In the West Bank town of Hebron, a Palestinian who demonstrated against the Israeli occupation and the American peace plan this morning was buried this afternoon. His brother had to be physically restrained from joining him in the grave.
They're defying death because they are a nation and they're trying to assert their national identity.
That's what they've been doing for 10 weeks, and that's why they would not meet with the Secretary of State. Schultz, they say, wanted to talk to local residents of the occupied territories. But they're part of a nation, they say, and their national representative is the PLO.
Peace is made between enemies, and today the 2 enemies are the PLO and the government of Israel. So peace has to be made between the enemies.
Israelis were under siege and stones all over the territories today. They were shooting from the hip and rounding up the usual suspects. In one place, wounded Palestinians went into hiding to avoid being picked up by the army. In another, armed Israeli settlers joined soldiers in making arrests. Settlers could turn out to be one of the biggest obstacles in the way of a settlement.
As we are strong in our belief, in our faith that we have to be here, so we will be here forever.
They must leave this whole land. A few blocks from where Schultz was holding his meeting, Jerusalem was hosting another battle. If the American plan would eventually separate Israel from the territories, de facto partition is already underway. Whatever coexistence there was between Arabs and Jews is disappearing. If for the politicians this was a day of taking stock, of trying to figure out what went wrong and why, it was that kind of day for the Army, too. High-ranking officers know their soldiers are not always under control, but were stunned by what they saw on a CBS News videotape this morning. It showed 4 soldiers beating 2 captured Arabs for 40 minutes. Major General Amram Mitzna, commander of the West Bank, said he was shocked and taking immediate action against the soldiers.
3 of them are already under arrest. The 4th will be in a couple of hours. I'm going to dismiss the deputy of the battalion commander from his duty.
He also freed the 2 rock-throwing Palestinians, saying he no longer cared what they had done. They were battered and bruised tonight and on their way home. Bob Simon, CBS News, Nablus.
If breakfast were as it was meant to be, it would be a centuries-old balance of fruits, grains, and nuts. The breakfast Europeans called muesli. Now muesli comes to America as Kellogg's Mueslix. Oats, wheat, rice, corn, barley, raisins, dates, and hazelnuts. Kellogg's Mueslix. 5 grain or bran. What breakfast was meant to be.
How come your coffee is darker than mine?
Mine's decaffeinated Folgers Crystals. Yours is the decaffeinated brand you've been drinking for years.
Mine's lighter looking.
See these dark, sparkling crystals made from Folgers mountain-grown coffee.
It smells really rich. Alice, looks and aroma are one thing, but how does it taste?
Have a sip.
Mountain grown. Alice, you're right, as usual.
Now I know why I married you. You're so sensible.
Decaffeinated Folgers Crystals. So dark and rich. Shouldn't you switch?
You should have seen this Whirlpool cooktop a little while ago. My husband made chili all over. But with this smooth ceramic surface, it was so easy to clean. Heck, the way my Whirlpool appliances clean up, I feel just like June Cleaver.
In Ricky Rudd's high-torque V8, clean-running Quaker Safe with QSX provides unbeatable protection from wear and tear.
And the oil that protects my car on the track is the same oil you buy right off the shelf.
The big Q stands for quality. Always has, always will.
For 12 hours today and yesterday, national leaders of the Assemblies of God Church tried to decide on the proper punishment for fallen television preacher Jimmy Lee Swaggart, who has publicly confessed an unspecified sin. Frank Courier looks at the governing board's decision and the dilemma it poses.
National church leaders for Jimmy Swaggart's ministry took the first steps today toward imposing tougher punishment against the fallen TV evangelist for his alleged sexual misconduct with a prostitute.
We will not discuss the content of our meeting, nor speak to any information or recommendations which have been sent to Louisiana.
But CBS News has learned the 12 ruling ministers are recommending that Louisiana church elders re-examine their 3-month suspension of Swaggart and order him to step down for a full year from his $142 million a year pulpit.
Please forgive me.
28-year-old Deborah Murphy is one of several prostitutes who worked a seedy strip of motels near New Orleans, who claim Swaggart paid them to perform lewd sex acts. Peggy Carrier says she saw Swaggart in the area many times.
And I saw the girls he went with. You know, that's another thing, the girls he went with. That would have been scary for me.
You're saying he went with the cheapest girls he could find?
We're talking dirty.
A flood of phone calls, more than 300 an hour since Monday, have inundated Assembly of God headquarters. At least half from Swaggart's disciples demanding tougher penalties.
The very best thing you could do is just to continue to pray.
A 1-year suspension from the pulpit is the recognized punishment for any Assembly's preacher charged with sexual misconduct. If Swaggart were forced to stop preaching for that long, many experts agree his worldwide ministry could collapse.
All of the institutions and things that he's built up around him there depend on the funds that he brings in through his television ministry and through his preaching.
When you make the wrong choice, you fall.
Judgment Day for Jimmy Swaggart may still be weeks away as church elders struggle with moral pressures to extend his suspension, even if it costs the church a lucrative worldwide ministry. Frank Courier, CBS News, Springfield, Missouri.
could be the beginning of a trend. Starting tomorrow, something new will be added to the California landscape. Warnings galore about toxic dangers everywhere. It's now the California law. Terry Drinkwater reports on the chemical reaction.
Warning signs are going up all over the state. Chemicals known to cause cancer or birth defects are in some of the foods Californians buy. They're in some of the factories where they work, and in some of the air that Californians breathe. Beginning this weekend, posted warning signs must alert the public to all of these dangers.
Thank you for calling the Ingredient Communication Council.
To learn what products are potentially harmful, shoppers can dial an 800 number. Operators look up thousands of items on their computers.
Okay, man, what's this particular brand or corn brand?
Consumer advocates think the 800 number is inadequate. They want warnings on the labels or signs on the shelves to better alert shoppers. But the Grocers Association advises putting the sign just on the front door or window of the supermarket.
I think if you're confronted with a sign in a store that says, there are harmful items in this store, that would unduly alarm the consumers of California.
Authors of the new law believe it will have effects on manufacturers beyond California.
They realize that if they change their products out here to get rid of those optional carcinogens, they're going to have to do it all across the country.
The danger is in many places. Small amounts of arsenic, for example, in the computer chip industry. The law focuses on low levels of these chemicals, and critics charge it goes too far.
Many of these chemicals are around naturally. They've been around for years, and the public has not been harmed by them.
Later this year, additional dangerous chemicals will be added to the list, including those in some wines and liquor. Consumer advocates want warnings on the bottles similar to those now on cigarettes, a move the industry is fighting nearly as hard as it did prohibition. Terry Drinkwater, CBS News, Los Angeles.
The Labor Department reported that inflation rose a modest 0.3% last month. That works out to an annual rate of 4.2%, slightly below last year.
Introducing the all-new Oldsmobile Cutlass Supreme. Four-wheel disc brakes, a multi-port fuel-injected V6 engine, four-wheel independent suspension, an aerodynamic styling even the wind can't resist. In short, the new Cutlass Supreme is not your father's Oldsmobile.
Bob Hinden doesn't know it, but something else is about to interrupt his trip. Pain. As Bob's gotten older, he gets more aches and pains. That's why his next move is to Metaprin. Metaprin has the same medicine as Motrin, and nothing's proven faster for relief of body pain or any kind of pain. It's also gentler to your stomach than aspirin. Metaprin works fast when you haven't got time for the pain.
There's never been a crisp like this. It's crispy. Wings and raisins.
Honey-touched flakes that stay crispier in milk than any other raisin cereal. Look for the coupon in this Sunday's paper.
No one knows I just got dentures, and I don't want anything to blow it.
Fixodent and forget it. Fixodent helps fix loose spots for a strong hold that lasts longer than any leading cream. Use Fixodent and forget it.
The Soviet Union has a building crisis tonight in the tiny Soviet Republic of Armenia. Mikhail Gorbachev today made an unprecedented personal appeal for calm and patience, but witnesses said hundreds of thousands of Armenians ignored it and kept up their street protest for a fifth straight day. They are demanding the return of an Armenian region governed by a neighboring Soviet state. No violence reported so far. Some Soviet troops reportedly have been moved in. Women's figure skating is the last big event as the Winter Olympics goes into its final weekend in Calgary, Canada. Two brilliant athletes are competing for the gold. As Jerry Bowen reports, they're battling for the hearts of the crowd and the judges and the soul of their sport.
It's the showdown of the Calgary Games, East versus West, and more, featuring Katharina Witt of East Germany, reigning queen of figure skating and the '84 gold medal winner. And a gritty, determined Debbie Thomas of the United States, a former world champion in first place by a narrow margin entering Saturday night's finals.
I hate to say it, but I think it's Katarina's to lose.
But I think if anybody can beat her, it's Debbie Thomas, because she's a real fighter.
So far throughout this competition, I've really been performing well. I have not been overwhelmed by the Olympic experience.
Thomas is recognized as the superior athlete, the technical expert, but Vitt is the artist, the budding actress, and in Calgary, the center of attention. She loves the cameras love her. Olympic organizers could have charged admission for her lone press conference.
I finished my school and I started and studied for an actress. My main role, it's on the ice now, and so I will see what I want to do later.
Later could mean Hollywood, now means controversy. Katerina is too sexy, grumble critics, her costumes an outrage, designed to influence the judges. 7 of the 9 are men.
I don't think we need to get into the bizarre area of indecency.
You know, the 7 male judges on that panel, right?
What do you think when you get marriage proposals from strangers?
I hope
they're not all just joking proposals.
Katerina Sparkle was nurtured behind barbed wire borders, a private apartment in Karl-Marxstadt, a fur coat, and the car, her rewards from the state for bringing home the medals. Everybody is watching.
I cross my fingers for her.
I think everybody will be proud of our Katerina.
Thomas is from California, the first black to make it big in the sport, but she dismisses race as irrelevant, considers skating temporary, and plans to be a doctor when she leaves the ice. Thomas upset Vitt once to win the world title 2 years ago, and this week, when most eyes have been on Katerina, she's been watching Debbie. Tomorrow night, both will skate to music from the same opera, and Thomas will be the very last skater of the evening.
Another way to look at it is I'm ending the whole Olympics.
The plot can't get much better. Jerry Bowen, CBS News, Calgary.
And that's the CBS Evening News. Bob Schieffer will be here tomorrow. I'll see you Monday. Dan Rather. Good night.
Get a taste of the unexpected. There's
Raisin in the middle. Kellogg's Raisin Squares. Raisin in the middle.
Kellogg's Raisin Squares. What a taste sensation. Whole wheat, sweetened with raisin.
A combination with flair. A tasty little package
With raisin in there.
Raisin in the middle.
Naturally sweet raisin.
Raisin in the middle.
Kellogg's Raisin Squares.
Raisin in the middle.
Kellogg's Raisin Squares.
And now apple cinnamon squares.
The first name in copiers probably isn't the copier name you think of first, but it's a name that links speed and performance with uncompromising reliability and makes innovative technology simple to use. For meeting the needs of every size business, business relies on the most popular copiers in America. From personal to high-performance copiers, the choice is Canon. Call toll-free 1-800-OK-CANON.
A little exercise never hurts, and neither does eating right, especially when it's Sunsweet pitted prunes with yogurt. Rounder, plumper Sunsweet. So good tasting, and so good for you.
A while back, I had this sprained ankle. I didn't take aspirin or Tylenol. My doctor gave me Advil. It worked on the pain, and Advil was gentler to my stomach than aspirin. Advil, tablets and caplets, advanced medicine for pain.
This is CBS.